we can now make a major projection. CNN projects that California's Democratic governor, Gavin Newsom, defeats the recall and will serve out the year-plus left on his term. Newsom turning back opposition that gained traction earlier in the pandemic, dodging what would have been a serious blow to his party and his career in one of the nation's biggest and bluest states. Again, CNN projects that Democrat Gavin Newsom, the incumbent governor, defeats the recall and will remain governor of California. Dana Bash, this is a much earlier night than we thought. It is a good night for the Democrats, a good night for Gavin Newsom.
Absolutely. Look, a recall is by definition a referendum on the governor. And what the governor's aides are saying that they really feel that they did right is make this not a referendum on him, but a referendum on what would happen if he's not there. What would happen if a Trump Republican took over? What would happen to people with their lives with regard to social issues and, most importantly, COVID? And they had Larry Elder, the leading Republican, as a foil, and also governors, Republican governors of other states for Gavin Newsom to point to say, do you want California to end up like Florida or Texas with regard to mask mandates, not allowing them, or even not even pushing vaccines?
Yeah, no doubt about it. A good night for Democrats. They ran a Democratic playbook in a Democratic state and won. Still some warning signs, I think, for Democrats. There is so much unease in the country around COVID still, around the economy, around climate change. And Gavin Newsom has to govern, and Democrats have to govern, and they have to prove that they can solve these problems. I think that is the big test, right? I mean, he didn't run on his record. He ran against Trumpism. He ran against Elder. He ran against DeSantis. Can he fix the homeless problem in California, which is such a big issue for so many people? So I think that's still the question for Democrats. What is their message about their party and their record of accomplishment?
And Casey, let me ask you, I've seen it said in the last week by Democratic aides, and I wonder if you agree, that the best thing that happened to Gavin Newsom was Larry Elder shooting to the top of the polls for the alternative. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I've had both Democrats and Republicans say that to me over the course of the last day. I mean, I spoke to some of the strategists for some of the rival Republican campaigns in California, too, and they said, Larry Elder was the best thing that ever happened to Gavin Newsom. And, I do think the one thing, big picture, and as John is always so careful to point out, these numbers aren't final, obviously, but the margin that we're seeing early in the night is huge for Gavin Newsom. It's bigger than, many people expected, certainly than many of my sources expected it to be. And I think that shows you that Democrats are still really engaged, or that you can engage them. They haven't tuned out of the news after 4 years of Donald Trump. They are still afraid of that kind of governance coming back, of living that way again, and that there is a way to activate that instinct. Because, of course, sometimes, when you win elections, your voters sit back, they say everything's fine, nothing to worry about, I don't need to get engaged, I don't need to get to the polls. That didn't happen here tonight.
And Dana, some of the policy positions that were part of Larry Elder's decades-long time in radio, doing talk radio, being provocative, which is the job of somebody in talk radio, but not necessarily appealing to voters, especially not in California, opposing a minimum wage, opposing maternity leave, opposing legal abortion. And as you noted during the COVID pandemic, he was not anti-vaccine, but certainly did not seem like somebody
he
who
said
would,
he got it, but he didn't.
Yeah, he would not impose vaccine mandates as Governor Newsom has. For instance, on healthcare workers and teachers, somebody who is against masking in schools, somebody who has voiced opposition to kids getting vaccinated.
Exactly.
This is not a state that wanted to hear that message.
And that is one of the questions that we are going to see being asked, and that will be a test that states across the country are going to be looking at. And that is about the Republican Party. I mean, yes, in 2003, Arnold Schwarzenegger won for a lot of reasons, not the least of which is that he was one of the biggest movie stars in the world, but also because he wasn't a sort of base conservative, because that doesn't work in doesn't work in California, but it wouldn't necessarily work in even a purpley state. And so when you see that there were other Republicans on the ballot, like the mayor of San Diego, who are maybe more fitting for a place like California. And they didn't stand a chance
Right.
because that's not where the Republican Party is. It is a warning sign for Republicans when you look at their national ability.
Well, and let's to pick up on your point about the Republican Party, too. I mean, this is the second election that we've had after the 2020 presidential, right? We had those elections in Georgia where you had candidates coming out and saying, don't trust the system. Your vote's not going to be counted. Now, before this election, we had Larry Elder already starting to say, your vote's not going to be counted. There's already fraud. And I was talking to one California Republican. I mean, I think, we've all covered the fact that California Republicans have actually been voting by mail for years, decades even, in a way that had them extraordinarily comfortable with the system. And now all of a sudden these doubts have been sown. And, I think Republicans also think that that really hurt them potentially and maybe part of the margin here as well. And if you think about how that applies across the map, I mean, it's a potentially a real problem for Republicans. And America, obviously, but also for the party.
No, and I think we'll see that in other races. You think about the Virginia governor's race there, the way in which Terry McAuliffe is trying to paint the challenger there, Glenn Youngkin, as a Trumpist, essentially. And I think, that's going to be the big question. How potent is Trump and Trumpism in 2022? We saw here that running against Trumpism was very easy in a Democratic state. We'll see how that plays out in these House races and these other governor's races and Senate races as well.
Very different dynamic.
All right, Anderson?
Yeah, Jake, we are waiting to hear from Governor Gavin Newsom. Obviously, we'll bring those comments to you live. Rob, what lessons are clear at this point?
California is behaving politically the way it's drawn. The math is coming through. I do caution that this is a blowout, and those numbers probably shrink. We know from last year's all vote by mail election, Republicans are going to vote late, maybe even vote in person today. But it's clear. It's why we've made the call. It's going to be a big blue victory in a blue state tonight.
What do you expect to hear from Newsom tonight? I mean, it doesn't seem like there's. I mean, how celebratory would it be?
Well, I'm sure he's being cautioned not to celebrate. He's not exactly known for introspection, though. So I still think you'll see a rather brash acceptance speech or a victory speech, I guess, suppose it is. But he'll be well served. There's not a party. It's just going to be a speech. He'll be well served to move on quickly and get back to doing the work of the people.
Look, I think he's been humbled by this experience. Your successes give you your confidence. Your setbacks give you your character. He was looking down the barrel of his career being over, and he had to find something in himself, and you saw that with him. He found a deeper passion. He connected with the grassroots. I think you're going to see something good from him tonight. But what I will say is this tonight, it's fear times fear equals frustration. The Republicans were afraid of Gavin, not just because of COVID, but he was doing stuff on universal pre-K. He was doing a lot of progressive stuff that scared the Republicans. Then the Democrats got scared of Larry Elder. And it's not just Larry Elder. The Republican Party, the stuff on choice that they've been doing, the stuff that on voting they've been doing, they're being nowhere on climate change, scared Democrats. So you had Republicans get scared of Gavin, then Democrats got scared of Larry Elder. But tonight, most Californians are frustrated because we wasted all this money and all this time, and now we're in the same mess with no progress. So at some point, we got to get out of the politics of fear on both sides.
$270 million. $276 million for what?
Yeah.
Well, but
You talk about Newsom being humbled. The fact is, it was that lack of humility that wound him up in this battle.
Right.
He went to a restaurant in the middle of the pandemic and defied his own guidance. It really was the jet fuel behind the movement to recall him. And it turned out to be the most expensive meal anybody ever had. He had to spend $80 million to win this race. The state has spent $270 million. But the dessert is pretty good for him here. And people are going to look at this. I think Democrats are going to look at this and say, is this a formula? And Van, you're right. It's not just about vaccines. So that clearly worked for him here. But there is this Trump-tinged extremism. Democrats they're going into the midterms. They are going to be, I think, in a very difficult position to hold the House, perhaps to hold the Senate. And the one thing they've got going for them is Republicans.
Right.
And and the lesson here is Republican extremism does not sell outside the Republican Party.
this is Mitch McConnell's big concern with the primaries that lie ahead, where he's going to need candidates that aren't like Larry Elder.
Or Herschel Walker.
Or Herschel Walker, maybe the next Larry Elder. But what's playing out here tonight in California is the demonstration that a Trumpian-style candidate cannot grow the base, right? You can't expand beyond, in this case, the fringe in California, because we're already outnumbered 2-1. This is exactly why McConnell wants to has engaged Trump
But I think that's the real problem.
on these primaries.
But that's the real problem. We had a poll recently which said, 60% or so of Republican, self-identified Republicans see Trump as the leader of the party.